Abierto. I work at Ciudadano Inteligente. We're a civic technology organization based in Santiago, Chile, but we work in Latin America and for the Caribbean as well. Our goal is to develop technology to promote transparency. One of my favorite projects, it's called the Inspector of Interest. It aims to identify potential conflict of interest in the members of Congress between their assets with the way they vote. Basically, the premise is about protecting democracy, and we use open data and freedom of information to unveil those potential conflicts of interest. From a user perspective, users can go online to the Inspector of Interest, inspectorintereses.cl, and they will find basically two main boxes. They will find on the one side boxes or lists of members of Congress. When they click one of those, it will immediately filter the areas of interest, agriculture, building, that these members of Congress have. And when they click one of those areas, they will see if there is any kind of bill, because if they voted or because they're promoting a piece of legislation in which they may have a conflict of interest given the assets and their interests they have. We identified that members of Congress had a duty, because of freedom of information law, to disclose their assets and their interests. Giving that thought, we actually went out and researched and gathered all the information, all the data about what the members of Congress said they had about their assets and about their interests. And we realized that it was not that complete, but we didn't know exactly to what degree was it incomplete. So that's when we tried to get other public data sources, open data from the public register and so forth. And we basically built an alternative database with what public data told us about assets and interests related to members of Congress. So then we had two pieces of information, what they told us they had and what public data told us they had. And we were able to contrast, and we found that nearly 40% of members of Congress were not fully disclosing all their assets and the interests they had. And also because we had access to databases about the legislative work, which means the bills that we're discussing, how they vote about bills. So all that information then can be contrasted as well, can be crossed with the interest one. And then we were able to say, and there are some areas where there are potential conflict of interest between assets and interests that members of Congress have and the way they're working. I'm not sure if I was surprised to find out that about 40% of members of Parliament were not fully disclosing their assets. But now we can prove it. And that was a big difference. That was a stat figure that you can give to the press, for example, so that the point can be raised, so the point can be discussed. It's hugely important in the future that the use of the platform is much more massive, so that we can actually identify, again, conflict of interest, but then do the job that needs to be done later on, which sometimes may end in a change of legislation, in sanctions to those who are actually, in corruption activity. And also, part of the next future we're seeing is that because of some of the impact we have had already, there are many other countries that are trying to use this tool and implement it and deploy it in their own context. So we're looking forward to work with them. In some cases, we already are working with them so that the Inspector of Interest may serve other countries as well. What motivates me is democracy. And we need to use transparency. We need to use citizen participation to make sure that, again, the democracies serve the will of the many. So we need to understand the context where we work on. We need to understand that in our case, for example, about just 20% of people access technology. And nevertheless, we develop technology. We understand that it's just that 20%. We need to work with that 20% so that more people can access the web, but more importantly, we need to work with that 20% with a focused strategy to protect democracy. That's what we're up to. And again, there's no change in agendas. It's the same agenda about the rights of people, it's the same agenda about democracy, and we're using the power of technology to embrace participation and to bring transparency up to a higher level that, again, can protect this democracy that we dear.